Hey everybody, welcome back to another SAT video. This is a question from the 2024 Test Bundle 6, Module 2 of the Math section. If 4 raised to the 8 times c power is equal to the cubed root of 4 to the 7th power, what is the value of c? Okay, so this is a question based upon exponents and representing exponents and radicals in different ways, right? So it might be a little intimidating to see a radical that has a 3 and then also an exponent within it, right? But this question is actually simpler than it looks if you remember that you can represent radicals, right? You can represent radicals as fractional exponents. What I mean by that is, well, it's better understood if I give you a simple example, right? Suppose we have the square root of x, right? The square root of x. Not the square root basically means we are getting the second root, right? The squared root of x, right? But in this case, we could also write x as x to the 1 power, right? So how could we represent this term in terms of a fractional exponent? Well, you would basically take the exponent of the term inside the radical, right? So in this case, we have x to the 1 power, right? We would take that term, that becomes the numerator of our fractional exponent, and then this radical right here, whatever degree the radical is at, that becomes the denominator, right? So x to the 1/2 power is actually equal to square root of x. Let's try another example, right? So suppose we had maybe y to the 5th power, and outside maybe we were taking like the 7th root of y to the 5th power, we could again write that as y to the 7/5 power, right? So I always like to just remind myself if I ever get confused where the numerator or the denominator would go in a fractional exponent, I always think back to my square root example, right? If you can remember that x to the 1/2 power is equal to the square root of x to the 1 power, that can kind of help you remember the overall rule for everything else, right? So let's go back to our original equation. We have 4 to the 8c is equal to 3 to the cubed root of 4 to the 7th power. We know now that we can basically represent this as 4 to the 7/3 is equal to 4 to the 8c power. Now both the bases of these exponential terms are the same, so that means we can now equate 8c is equal to 7/3. Now we just divide both sides by 8, so we're going to divide this side by 8, right? We just scroll down a little bit. So c is going to be equal to 7/3 divided by 8. And remember, we are basically dividing a fraction, right? So we can rewrite this as 8/1. And whenever you divide two fractions, you keep, switch, and flip, right? So that means we keep the first term, 7/3. We switch this from division to multiplication, and then we flip this term, right? So the denominator becomes the numerator, and the numerator becomes the denominator, right? So then this becomes 7 times 1 will equal 7 in the numerator. 3 times 8 is equal to 24. Therefore, c is equal to 7/24. Well, there you have it. That is the answer to this one. Pretty short. Hopefully you will remember how to represent exponents, fractional exponents as radicals, and then radicals as fractional exponents. Again, if there's anything that I can improve for these videos, please let me know in the comments below. Always, as always, check out Khan Academy. I plug it every single video because it is a great resource for people that like to self-study. And as always, thank you for watching.